Crash. Yep. Can't handle the traffic.
It's Hyper Potato. Oh yeah, party time with Chris and
What's
Ed.
up, Hyper? So
Jumping on first thing.
oh, here it is. Okay. 15 seconds ago it started, it says.
Go.
Let's see. I just got a message Facebook that you're on live.
Cool.
And the Twitter one is not moving.
All right, let me jump. So, everybody who's in the chat, just to let you know, we are attempting to not only stream live on YouTube tonight, we're also streaming live on our Fans of Boom Studios Facebook group and the Comic Addiction Twitter handle. So, we are sort of looking at all those things right now just to make sure everything is.
Yeah, I don't think that Twitter is streaming.
It is. I just see it now. Yep.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, why is mine not streaming? I wonder. I just have a static.
I don't know. Now the one I'm changing it because the one that is pinned is the old one.
Yeah, up at the top there.
I'm changing that one real quick. Pin. So yeah. We got Hyper, we got Terry, we got Doug. His body's doing well. So yeah, it's going on Twitter, so we're good to go there. Sweet.
Huh. Mine just didn't work. Okay.
I don't know why.
I don't want to open it up on the laptop or anything, so there's no
You get
conflicts.
This Inception thing.
Oh yeah, really.
All righty.
Waiting for the beat to drop.
Let's see.
And like I said, I did get a notice that it was live on Facebook.
Cool. That is good. Oh, I know what I was going to do before I did anything. I was going to actually.
Hey, Terry. Hey, Doug. Sup? So, if you're streaming at all these places, can you tell on StreamYard comments coming from each of them?
That's what I was going to look at.
If somebody were to comment.
Yeah, if somebody were to comment. I do have so I can tell that we have 5 people who are viewing us. 1 on Fans of Boom Studio, 4 on YouTube.
Okay.
And so when we get what StreamYard does is dump all of the chats into our chat.
Okay.
So there's an icon that's next to everybody, and we'll just show like Doug's.
Right.
Doug's
you're right. It's got the YouTube icons. Okay.
Yeah. So if somebody on Facebook were to message, it'd be the Facebook logo, and then I'm assuming Twitter would be the same way. So.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah. So we thought we would try this out, folks, and so if you are watching us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, welcome, and be sure to if you got questions or comments or something like that, we'll definitely share those if they're appropriate to everybody.
Hyper, man, I am not in a good mood tonight, but I'm trying my best.
No, we gotta bring it out of this.
Yeah,
out of the funk.
Who's got the funk?
See, that is the second in 2 weeks I've had a George Clinton reference.
I'm not sure you can have too many George Clinton references.
No, you can't. But like, it's as I've got. Okay, so I'm going to be 49 this year, which to me is not very old.
Congratulations.
Thanks. So, but it's the conversation everybody's having, like, oh, Chris is almost 50, is what it is. And so my brain now is when I think about, like, I never think about how old I am. I always think, oh, I'm just whatever, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
then so when I start, pointing out and like, oh, that person over there is, in their early 50s or late 40s, I kind of go, instead of going, oh, they're in their late 40s, early 50s, I'm like, they're my age.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do now.
That's where it is now. Yeah. Yep.
So we made some reference about George Clinton or something about the funk or something like that. And I said, I was in a conference call, a Teams meeting or whatever, with everybody's, and I'm like, every one of you except for you and you are too young to know who George Clinton
To
is.
know, okay, to get
Yeah.
the
And
reference.
they were
Yep.
like, yes, we are total. And I'm like, I am the whitest person on this call. I
And,
should not be the only one being able to make this reference.
yep.
It's like-
And you know George Clinton.
and I know who George Clinton is. So it's like there was a weird storm, and everybody found it quite hilarious. So
And or Parliament.
yeah, yes, you can't forget the Parliament. So oh, good times. So all right, well, let's go ahead and get started with things. And let's see. Oh, Doug, I'm turning
Okay,
50 in a few days.
just
So
to help everybody feel better. Okay, a couple months ago I turned 55. So let's, so there
go
we
ahead
go.
and throw everybody's ages out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this puts Ed and I in a certain demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. We changed the listing. We went down one of the categories there. Yeah.
So all of those little forms that you have to fill out, are you in this age group, or like
Yep.
we now jump to another?
Right.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm almost there, but
It's the next
it's
one
the
from
next one. You're like, man,
50 is usually a break. It's
it's like 50 and above or
Yeah.
something like that. It's like, yeah, that's it. So all right. So well, let's go ahead and get started. I hope everybody's having a good time. Ed, are you ready?
Yep.
In 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Boom Addiction. I am one of your hosts, Chris Barton. With me, as always, is Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, sir, how are you?
Pretty good. Glad to be here. Let's talk about some boom butterflies.
Let's talk about it. So we'll just right off the bat, news had already come out, a couple months or so ago, that the Butterfly Limited series was going to be, that Boom published back in 2014, is going to be a limited TV series on Amazon. So we got a little more information about that. It's now been ordered to series. Well, let's say it got optioned for Amazon Prime, and now it has been ordered as a series. So, so this press release came out like a day or two ago. It says today it's revealed that Prime Video has ordered Butterfly to series. That is Daniel Day Kim's 3AD and Boom Studios, adapted from the original graphic novel, created by Arash Amel and written by Arash Amel and
Marguerite Bennett.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that she was. It's been forever since I read that.
Yeah, I forgot that it was her too until I pulled mine and was looking at it. And I'm like, that art, who is that?
Yeah.
All the way back to the beginning. Oh, okay, yeah.
It's illustrated by Antonio Fuso and Stefano Simono. So Daniel Day Kim will star. It's a 6-issue limited, 6-episode series. I got to switch comic book, and now the comic book was only 4 issues, so now they're going to 6 episodes. So this will be interesting. I'm sure they'll, you got to put some backstory and stuff there. With let's see, Ken Woodruff from The Mentalist and Gotham, set as the showrunner and co-creator for the adaptation, alongside with acclaimed novelist Steph Shaw. So Butterfly is according to the press release, Butterfly is a character-driven spy thriller that explores complex family dynamics within the treacherous world of global espionage. It's centered on David Young, an enigmatic, I can't say that word.
Enigmatic.
There you go.
Enigmatic.
Enigmatic. There you go.
Yes.
Got to find that other syllable. Highly unpredictable former U.S. intelligence operative living in South Korea, whose life is blown to pieces when the consequences of an impossible decision from his past comes back to haunt him. He finds himself pursued by Rebecca, a deadly psychopathic young agent assigned to kill him. So that's pretty exciting. That we definitely need to talk about Butterfly. I mean, we've got sort of an open slot next week. So we'll kind of talk about it, but we definitely want to talk about it before the show does come out because we want to make sure that folks
Well, but
know about it. And we missed out talking about it when it originally came
yeah,
out. So
but I mean, if it's just now been optioned, we'll be lucky if we see it before the end of the year. So
oh yeah,
we've got time to talk about
we've
it.
got
That's
time.
not a problem.
No, we gotta do it now, man.
No, yeah, right now. They said it. We got to do it now.
We gotta do it right now. That's the way things work. Because if you don't do it right when the press release hits,
That's
nobody
it.
cares.
That's right. It's cold.
You've
By
lost your
tomorrow, it'll
window.
be cold, and people
Yeah.
just moved on.
Yeah, the book actually spiked in price for about half an hour right after the
Mhm.
press release. So it was like $100, and now it's back down to $4.
Yep.
So if you were in that window, you could have made some money. But yeah, so
Now you have to wait till it actually comes out.
exactly,
They'll probably go back up then.
it'll go
Yeah.
back up a little more.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so if you've got your copies, cool. If not, now's the cool down time. So get
Mhm.
out there, find
Yeah.
your
Now's the
find
time to
your
get them.
copies.
Yeah. If you want to get them.
And I do, sort of say that jokingly of how, speculative market works, but I do recommend that you do go out and find this book. It was an enjoyable series. It's got those Philip Noto covers,
Mhm.
which are nice too. So
It also came out in soft and hardcover trade.
mhm.
So you have a variety of options of
Yep.
reading style there,
Mhm.
or not reading style. What would that be? Publishing style,
Format.
format, format.
There
That's
you
the
go.
word. Yes.
See, this is what we do. We help each other out.
Hey.
Try to
Yeah.
remember what those words
Well,
are so hard.
I just watched the last 4 episodes of American Born Chinese,
Mhm.
so I'm trying to get that out of my head, looking and reading this, and not conflate the 2,
Trying to
which
balance.
because I am terminally Caucasian is a problem that I sometimes have. Otherwise, they are not similar at all. I don't know what the problem is, but in my head, there is a problem.
You'll be fine. And you're not wearing your Usagi Yojimbo cap tonight.
No, no, I put on my Appalachia Paranormal
I
cap
just
for a
I just noticed that.
local ghost hunting group.
Cool. I need to tell my son about them. He's a big fan of getting into that. He used to ghost hunt
Okay.
back in his Spartanburg days. So, all right, let's jump into final order cutoff, as we always do. These are the books that are coming out in a couple of weeks or a few weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks sometimes. Final order is May 29th, which is next Monday. But definitely, if you're going to be doing any of these orders, check with the shop that you are ordering them through, whether online or physical, and make sure you know what their time is, so that because they could be ordering. I am moving my screen, but my screen on that streaming is not moving at all. That is
Nope, it's not moving.
funky. Why is that not moving? One sec. Let me that's that's really strange. Let me reshare that screen and see what was happening there. That was very bizarre. I'm over here scrolling on one screen, and the other screen was like, nope, you can't. It's still not doing it. That's
Mm.
so weird. All right. Sorry, folks. Let me just share the whole window. Maybe that'll help. Entire screen. There we go. Now we can scroll because there's a lot of books. I wanted to make sure that we covered them all.
Yep.
So, all right then. Let's go ahead and get started. Damn them all. We know that if you checked out the latest previews, the latest issue of the series will be coming out. I guess that's in August.
Mhm.
So we've got the trade paperback collecting the first 6 issues coming out. That's a $20 trade paperback. So we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but have you enjoyed that miniseries or that series up to this point?
Did you read it?
I've not finished reading it. I've read the first 3 issues.
Remind me what it was. I read it, but I'm not.
It's I hate to say it. It's in essence, what if John Constantine was female, or his
Yes,
daughter, or this could be his daughter,
that's right. Okay.
kind of
Yes,
concept.
I have enjoyed it quite a bit actually. Yeah,
So it's really good. It's Cy Spurrier. I think it's Cy Spurrier. Is that his book? Let me
I
check. Yeah,
believe so. Isn't it?
Simon
Yeah,
Spurrier. But the big draw for everybody was obviously Charlie Adler doing the art on it. So,
yeah.
but
Did
it's a really good book.
did Cy Spurrier do any of Constantine?
Oh yeah, I gotta think he did. I think this is
It's
just
Well,
maybe
that's why it
something.
has that feel. I mean, it's
Yeah.
set in England, and it's a people user who also uses magic. I mean,
Hmm.
there is so many parallels that
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's no hiding it by any stretch. And I don't think he's trying to. I think he's
no,
just sort of leaning
no
into it.
reason to really either. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, there's
S-
only 13 story ideas, or
Right.
however that saying goes. I mean, so
Exactly.
you know,
Let's see. Dune House of Harkonnen. I can say it this week. Harkonnen number 6 of 12. We got a couple covers for that. The Giant Days Library Edition hardcover volume 1 is coming out, and I am this is me buying this finally. Like I never read Giant Days.
oh really? You didn't? Okay,
I just completely missed it.
none
Like
of the
it
previous
was out.
formats,
I just never picked it up.
right?
I Since then I have heard a lot of really really good stuff about it, and um Boom is coming out with these library editions. If you followed the Kickstarter, which I didn't back because I couldn't buy all of them at one time, but if you followed along with what the point of it was, is that it was so early in Boom sort of publishing history that they were not very happy with how the collected editions came out. And so what this is them putting together something that they really like, they're proud of, and really making a point of getting it out to,
Okay,
schools and libraries and that kind of thing.
better
And
watch out, man. It's liable to be banned.
oh geez, I would not be
It
surprised.
it won't make it through Florida, it won't make it through, what else? Texas,
Texas.
um, and I was reading about another state that is really ramping things up today. I forget who that was. Kansas?
Oh geez.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
anyways.
But $30 for this, I forget how many volumes there's gonna be. It's like 7 or 8.
Yeah, there were
So
a lot of issues of it.
yeah. Yeah. So this will be where I get into this series. So I'm looking forward to that. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 109. A couple covers there as they're building up to their next big, event. Uh, we also get the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Recharged Trade Paperback Volume 2. So that's getting everything caught up. We also have another one shot Power Rangers Unlimited Coinless number 1. And so there's a couple of covers with that. Dan Mora cover A as well. I
Yep.
mean, because he didn't have anything to do between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m.
Exactly, yeah, he had a couple spare minutes, so he
His
popped out a
kids were
Power Rangers
asleep, and so
cover.
he's like, "All right, let's do it." So,
Wow.
Vampire Slayer, Buffy, number 15. This a couple covers on that one, and brand new series, a sort of
Yes.
a sequel to the
Yes.
original series, Wild's End, issue 1 of 6. Couple of covers on that, so
Looking
I'm
forward.
looking forward.
Read that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be honest, I kind of thought I was like, well, do I just want to? I hate saying trade weight on it, but I was kind of like, I don't know. Like I've got a ton of books that are on my pull list, and just for whatever reason, for like a minute, I was like, maybe I'll wait, and then I'm like, nah, I went ahead and added it to the pull list.
Well, to me, it's kind of interesting because the first two, whatever, chapters,
Mhm.
volumes, whatever you want to call them, were issues, but the third was released in collected only.
Yeah, maybe that's
Or or if it wasn't collected, it was that size.
right.
It might not be fair to say a collected edition, but it was
Yeah,
that size. But now they're back to individual issues, so I'm kind of curious. I have the first two
yeah.
chapters. I missed the third, and I'm in the process of looking, trying to
Mm, okay.
get well, get it cheaply
Yeah,
and in preparation for when this comes out.
cool. Yeah, that's always the thing. It's, you miss out on one little thing, and
Yeah,
then it's kind of a hunt of trying to get it at a reasonable price. Like
right.
I'm currently trying to get back issues of Lumberjanes. Like the first, like I had them. You know how my thing is. I
Mhm.
sold half my collection and all this other stuff. So I'm trying to accumulate those earlier issues again. And they're not super expensive, but they're hard to find for one.
Okay.
And then they're hard to find at a decent price. Like, I mean, I don't mind paying a couple bucks over cover or something like that, but at the same time, don't try and sell it to me for $50 or
Oh, yeah,
not that I
yeah.
found it for $50, but don't jack up the price just because it's limited, print run or whatever that nonsense.
I, I finally started buying them when they started releasing them in those white hardcover editions,
Oh
um,
yeah, the field. I
to
don't
the
know.
to the max or something like
Yeah,
that.
I know what you're talking. Yeah, there's big hardcovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Hey,
nice.
have I told you the story of how I got the first one?
No, well,
Uh,
you may have. Go ahead and remind
okay,
me.
one of the uh, creators, I forget if it was one of the writers or the initial artist, or actually it might have been a combination of all that. Were at Heroes that year that they started putting out those to the max hardcovers,
Okay.
and I had read and knew they were going to be coming out, and it was like I don't know a month or two maybe after Heroes.
Hmm.
But I thought, well, maybe because this was a year that there seemed to be a lot of Boom people at Heroes.
Mhm.
No Boom official, but
Right.
there were a lot of individual creators. And so I went up to their booth, their table, and you know, was talking about this and that and Lumberjanes, and I got them to sign a couple. I bought a couple individual issues so I could get their signature, and then I just asked. I said, is there any chance that you know of a way that I can get a hold of one of those to the max editions without having to wait, 2 months or whatever it is? She said, well, as a matter of fact, I brought a couple of my comps with me. I
Of
said,
course you did.
no way. She said, and I could, and before she even, before she even got it out, I was like, how much?
Right, yeah.
And it was like $5 off of what cover,
Oh,
was gonna
sweet.
be. I'm like, "Deal, here, sign everybody at this table, just pass it down.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
for
sign it."
sure.
Yeah, and that's
That's
how
pretty
I
cool.
I intended to buy them, but that definitely boosted my desire to
Yeah,
buy those to the max editions, and
yeah.
that started them.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you, because you post photos of books that you get all the time at cons and whatever you go. And I do remember you posting pictures on Twitter about, picking up sequential, volumes of it.
Yeah.
So I do remember you picking those
Yeah,
things
that
up.
was that
So
was
that's
cool. That was a kind of a happenstance, kinda
oh
not. I
yeah,
mean, I was hoping, but I'm like, "Oh, whatever." No, it's
right.
too early. It'll come out later. But yeah, I did bring a couple of my comp copies. I'm like,
You're like,
"Yes."
sweet, let's do
No
that.
doubt, man. Yeah, that was cool. And then they
Uh,
just stopped them. They
oh,
made
they
like
never finished them.
7 or 8 of them. And I believe there's enough individual issues for 1 plus a little bit. But they haven't come out. I thought maybe the pandemic had hung that up or
Hmm.
something, but they just haven't they just stopped the to the max volumes,
Oh
and I
wow.
haven't seen any more solicited or anything.
So Hyper wants to hang out with you at Heroes so he can find some cool stuff.
The most that you'll get from hanging around with me is all of the first issues of the 92, 93 Image books because I run
Nice.
into those like nobody's business.
You then I need to go hang out with you.
Everywhere I look, I'm like, "Oh, there's a first oh, and there's an and there's a"
Right.
yeah, so
I'm in and I've told you this off the show, but I'm in my finding the first couple of years of Image comics, trying
mhm,
to get a full run of all that's not really the not looking to have 1 through 25 of Spawn or anything like that, but looking to have, the first couple of years, 5 years or whatever of Image. It gets a little crazy because, Liefeld went a little nuts
well,
with how many first issues can I launch and
yeah,
not do
eventually,
anything.
like 90 94 probably, he
Oh
really
yeah, yeah. It gets
between, what was it? Maximum and
Yep.
what was his other imprint?
Well, he had well, not Awesome. Awesome was after Image, but
Yeah,
he
didn't he have two?
no, he only had the one imprint in the early
Oh,
days of Image.
okay. I thought that the second imprint was kind of what got him in trouble.
No, I think it was his attitude or his mouth that's what got him in trouble.
Yeah, you can't tell that by listening to his podcast. That's for
Nope.
sure.
Nope. 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 All right, so let's look on what's coming out next week. Oh, look, please wait.
I've
Oh,
got it.
well, I was
Oh,
gonna say
there we
no.
go.
It
Okay.
literally said please wait. I was like,
Oh
wait a
yeah, I
second.
know.
It's supposed to be more than that.
So here we go, guys. Apparently, it's a slow week next week. Is it a fifth week? One,
I
two,
think
three, four. Yeah,
so.
it's a
Yeah,
fifth Wednesday, so maybe that has something to do
that's
with
it.
it. But we have two line entry items there that you can look for. One will be the second printing of the first issue of Expanse: The Dragon Tooth.
Yep.
Nice cover, by the way. And the next iteration of a program that they started with, was it Once in Future that they did that first with, Chris?
I want to say it was Something Is
Or
Killing, and
no,
then Once in Future. No, you're
was
no,
it?
because David Mack did all the Something Is Killing, or did the first batch of them.
Yeah, no, yeah, maybe it was Something Is Killing is the first one they came out with,
Yeah.
and then Once in Future they've done it, and they
Yep.
did it with something else here about a month or so
They
ago.
did House of Slaughter has
Okay,
gotten them. Grimm obviously
and
now is
now,
getting
yeah,
them.
yeah, and that's what this is. This is the Grimm. It's the a bundle of the each of the first 5 issues,
Yeah.
so you get complete issues. But the point is to get these Virgin variant covers on them. Each one will come with a cover that has not been on any of the previous issues. Brand
Yeah.
new
And
artwork.
these are connecting covers that Dave Johnson
Okay.
has done. And Dave Johnson is one of my favorite artists. If you give him time to do cover work like this, I am definitely on board with it. Um, and I saw something on Twitter or something like that where he said it doing doing something like doing covers or sequential covers or something like that is difficult for him, but it was nice. It was or trying to come up with whatever that image is
Okay.
always difficult.
Just spread across.
Once
Yeah.
he gets it, he's good to go. But yeah, it was. But he said this one just kind of came pretty quick, so
Okay.
it's like sweet. But yeah, Dave Johnson it's pretty. He's a pretty awesome artist.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go. So they're a little bit pricier than the normal books. So
Yeah,
$40 for 5 is what, eight a book.
yeah.
But again, you get a Virgin variant cover
Mhm.
for each of the issues. And in this case, like Chris said, they're going to be connecting covers. That's not always the case with these
Right.
bundles. It just
Yeah.
depends. Um, I think even one of the bundles, was it maybe House of Slaughter? Each of the books was a different artist.
Think so. I think you're
One
right.
of the packs threw us off because all the previous had been the same artist on each book, and then
Yeah,
they advertised one, and each book was a different artist, and we were like,
yeah.
"Wow, that's different from what they've been doing."
Yeah, I wanna say it was the Once in Future that even did it,
Okay.
because they solicited the Something Is Killing for a while because it was 4 bundles.
Yeah.
And then after, like, the 3rd bundle got pre-solicited, or maybe it was the 4th one, then Once in Future, so we were sort of prepped, like, "Okay, cool. Who's the artist that they got for this?"
hmm
And then it was, like, multiple artists, and we were kinda like, "Okay, alright." I kinda like the idea of one artist doing it just as a as an exercise. I think it's a cool collection to have.
Yeah.
So those David Mack covers are sweet.
Yeah, they are.
I would. I don't want to say I would like to have another set that I could go get autographed, and but I don't like. I haven't seen him at a con in a long. He used to come to Heroes, but that's been a very long time ago. So, but
Did you see where Chris Claremont and JR are going to be at this one.
Yes, I did.
They just announced this week.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's
Don't
cool.
think I'll be going, but pretty excited that they would at least be
Yeah,
there.
you need to like fix all your other stuff that happens that weekend so you can go to
It
Heroes.
happens
That's
every
been your
year.
excuse for
I
for the
know it
past couple years. That's been your
happens every
excuse.
year.
It's
I'm
like, come
so
on, man.
sorry.
You know when by the time this Heroes is over, you'll know when the next one is.
Oh yeah,
Plan for it. Come on.
yeah. I'll try. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right. So let's jump into, I guess, new books. Um we're really only going to be able to talk about two books tonight. Speaking of, scheduling and whatnot. We've got two, we've got Neighbors, and we'll have Harrower. So which of the two do you want to start with?
Um, you go ahead and do Neighbors because I have some things I want to say about Hero.
It's the I laugh only because I tried to explain Neighbors to my daughter tonight when I picked her up from work. She's, she's 21. She's, she's older. She's not a kid or anything like that. But she is definitely her types of movies and TVs and, shows and stuff that she likes have really started to surprise me that they used to not be in sort of in line with the rest of us,
Mhm.
but they've slowly sort of on her own started to
Oh,
get
okay.
aligned. And so she, we're not a big horror family or anything like that, but we do like some scary movies and stuff like that. So I was kind of describing this particular series, and I don't know if she liked the idea of it or not, but she did sort of stay with me as I was talking about it.
Talking
So
about yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. All right, so Neighbors, this is issue 3, stories by Jude Ellison S. Doyle. I just like to make up names. I apologize. Art by uh, Letzia. Can you help like that last name? Is that
I'd say Catanese.
Catanese? Okay. And then colors by Alessandro Santoro, letters by Becca Carey. And then logo designer is Carlton Hahn, designer is Madison Goyette. And there are a few covers along with this. So, for those of you who have not been reading along, Neighbors is a sort of blended family who has moved into a new home, and weird stuff is happening. Um, is basically the gist of it. It's the elevator pitch. I hate saying just weird stuff because that sounds like almost anything that's sort of family horror kind of thing. And I don't feel that this is sort of one of those typical stereotypical kind of stories. But at the same time, there are a lot of, I don't say it's not tropey, but there are some tropes in here. Um, so the family has come across a neighbor, an older lady who is a little scary. Like she kind of reminded me of the witch from Snow White when she handed her the apple.
Right.
That
Yeah.
sort of look with the robe,
Very
or
witchy, but not like outwardly evil, but
right,
kind of spooky, weird.
yeah. So the parents, and it's a young family, and the oldest daughter is probably high schoolish maybe,
Mhm.
and the youngest is probably 4 or 5 years old, something around that age.
And the older daughter comes from one of the couple, and the younger
Right.
daughter comes from the other of the couple. So they're
Yes.
like, and then on top of that, one of the couple is transitioning,
Yes.
and the other of the couple is, would it be fair to say, is lesbian?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have like blending just
Oh, it's blending, and
oh man.
is is blending as everything can be blended.
Yeah.
And so, but I feel like any other comic that I've read that would have something like this, that would be the focus, and it's not.
It's well, it's not the focus, but it is
It's important to the story.
The concept is almost it's almost weaponized. Weaponized is not the right word. It becomes a tool for
Yes.
particular people's behaviors
Without spoiling anything.
in the story. You know,
Yes.
the fact that it's um, a lesbian woman and a transitioning individual, and that turns out to be why they have moved
Mhm.
to make it socially easier for um, easy dog for the one, and I forget his name, who is transitioning. Socially makes it easier, but the transitioning turns out to be more difficult because they move to a small town to avoid spotlight and avoid attention. But in going to a smaller town, they also are finding it more difficult to get what he needs to transition.
Yes.
So it's kind of a excuse me, uh, not not a double-edged sword, but the sword turns out to have an edge on the opposite side from what they thought it would,
Right, yeah.
in
Yeah.
essence. So
You're like, "Oh, well, we didn't plan for this." Oh.
yeah, we'll go somewhere, where there's not as much attention, and it's like,
Yep.
well, yeah, and also you run into that
Yeah.
because yeah.
Now, in the first issue, we have a situation where, um, something happens to the oldest daughter,
Mhm.
and we're not entirely sure. She is, from what it looks like, kidnapped by 2 individuals,
Right.
and so um when her, we'll say, stepdad comes
Okay.
to the house, or he chases after
Right.
her, or they chase after, and then runs back to the house to call for help. The daughter, the eldest, is sitting there on the floor in the den when they get back to the house. And so it's like, wait a second, you were just out in the woods.
Right, we left you
Yeah. So
and
how are you here? And so that's how the first issue ends. So it definitely grabbed me, because that whole issue is, there's not a lot of like suspense or any or any kind of thriller or anything in there. And so it made, sort of, because the solicitations make you think, oh, this is going to be this very suspenseful horror kind of thing, and you're kind of expecting it, and there's nothing that sort of happens up until that moment where,
right,
hey, your mom told me to come by to do something for the house, and we're like, at night, what the frick, and so you knew the situation was getting ready to get bad. But then for the daughter to be sitting there on the floor at the end of the issue, you're just kind of like, and it's basically just like, hey, what's up? So what ends up happening in 2 and 3, and becoming obviously much more of a thing in 3, in issue 3, is that there is questioning, not on the mom side, because she is very, this is my baby, this
yeah,
is,
it's
she's very blinded because she's the mother. And so, and she even makes that comment, like, this is my kid, I would know who my kid is. And uh and so, and I wish I found, I I'm horrible with names. The
yeah,
mother's
I'm looking
name's
for names
mother's
and
name is Janet, the daughter's name is Casey. um but they really don't, where's the they just
Janet and Casey,
never
okay.
call them by their name. Like, nowhere. Like, there's a yeah, like, nowhere there's like, Oliver. There we go. Finally found
Okay,
it. I need to write this stuff down. But anyway, so Oliver, um,
and then there's the
it
baby girl too,
yes, and I
which is
don't
Oliver's child. I'll
yes.
look here,
So
see if they got that.
Oliver is approaching Janet and saying, "Look, have you noticed that Casey is now like 3 inches taller than me?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "She's always been taller than you." And he's like, "No. Like when we moved into this house, she was shorter than me. Now she's 3 inches taller than me. And she's eating raw meat." And she's like, "Oh, well, she's anemic. She needs it." It's like, "No, she's a vegetarian. Or vegan. Like she does not eat." Like there's a whole scene in the first issue that establishes who Casey is and all of her quirks and all this other stuff. And like she is very adamant that she is vegan. She wants nothing to do with animal anything. And then this Casey that's in issue 2 and 3 is eating raw meat. And but the other thing is that wherever Casey goes, something happens, whether things break, people get hurt. She's not directly involved in any of that, but the coincidence of it is that she is there when it happens. So even in this particular issue, Oliver gets cut just with Casey being nearby while he's saying this to her, like why do all these bad things happen when you are around? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he cuts himself. It's just like this is exactly what I'm talking about. So there's this sort of, Oliver is very adamant that this is not Casey. That whatever happened when he chased, they chased after Casey, who was being kidnapped, and returned back to the house, and then Casey was sitting there. That sitting there, Casey is not Casey. That is somebody else. But Janet wants nothing to do with that. She doesn't understand, what's happening, just is completely blind to it, which becomes a problem later in the issue. Now, trying to keep spoilers as much as we can, but Janet and Casey go to have a mother daughter, sort of afternoon, but Janet just doesn't know how to do that. It's like there's some like she just like, oh, this is stupid. I shouldn't be acting this way. I shouldn't be, telling my daughter all of my, problems I have with my husband and all, oh, I'm just a horrible mom, and then, things go from sort of that to much worse. And so and then we come to the end of the issue. Well, the end of the issue is when the end of the issue, uh, Oliver gets a text message from Janet that's saying, because they were already having difficulties with this whole Casey's not who she says he is, who she says she is. And the text message from Janet is just, I've taken Casey. We're going back to the city. And so Oliver is now sort of left, with the younger child, who I can't remember the name, left in the last image that we see in the issue is the little girl with a collar of nails. And she's like, "What the frick?" She's like, "Daddy," and that's what we're left with. And it's like, how did this end up happening? And so, because Casey's not been at the house, so is there somebody else involved? Something else involved? You know. So it's a very I describe it as sort of a disjointed story to my daughter, because while I can sort of see the overarching story that's happening, I feel like there's stuff that's happening in between the panels that might be actually important to the story that we're not seeing. And I could be wrong. It could just be the way I'm reading it. But I like sort of the concept and some of the bigger strokes of it, but it's the storytelling that I'm having some issues with. And I even went back and reread 1 and 2 along with 3 today to make sure that I just wasn't off today for whatever reason when I was reading. And all 3 issues sort of felt that way. Like I got the story, but at the same time, I kind of got to the end, like, really feel like this was sort of disjointed most of the way through. So, what are your thoughts?
Um, I don't. It didn't feel disjointed to me, and that just could be because I'm disjointed enough that I wouldn't recognize kind, if I saw it. So,
Right.
that I'll throw out first of all that that could be an issue.
Yeah.
And of course I would be the last one to know if that was an issue. So I have no idea. Um, my takeaway though is whatever is going on is wider spread per the very end of this issue than we perhaps were led to believe up to this point.
Yes. I mean, the book is called
So,
Neighbors, so and we've really
uh,
only seen the one. We've seen the folks in town, and they're a little odd.
yeah, they particularly in this issue.
Yeah,
I mean, when she went to town to get Oliver's medicine,
yeah.
that was,
That was an
m- m-
interesting exchange.
mind your own damn business kind of
Right.
stuff going on. I was like,
Yeah.
what? And then, this scene here near the end, you're like, oh, okay, so that's why. But, like I said, whatever is going to be going on in the story is much wider spread than just potentially affecting this one family.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
dare I even say it is or has affected all of the families in this town. So, I
It could
mean,
have. Yeah, for sure.
that would make her and Oliver true outsiders because whatever's going on hasn't gone on to them yet,
Yeah.
potentially. And then, that scene and then the text message I just took just straight out as just a cover.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So to me, between the town scene and Oliver here sitting on the couch, if this is part of the disjointedness you felt, I didn't. I just thought that
Okay. And like I said,
end of
it definitely could
scene,
be me. Yeah.
and then just the beginning of the next scene was the cover for what is going to turn out to be the end result of the previous scene.
Yeah.
And even if the end result is nothing more than just needing more time for something to happen.
Mhm.
Now, what happens to the younger child and why and by whom? Yeah. Now
Mhm.
those are questions that we're certainly left with. There's some hints as to who, at least, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a who we recognize. And I really want to know uh, how. I mean, I would assume that
Oh,
at
yeah.
night everybody is inside a locked house, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what most of us do at night.
Mhm.
So how does his daughter come in this state? You
Yeah,
know,
because it's just been the 2 of them in the house,
exactly. Well, as far as he knows now,
Oh, right,
maybe
yeah.
maybe the daughter knows something different now. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm like, what? How did this happen? Who? Why did it? Yeah. So.
Well, and we get as we get toward the end, with Oliver staring out right before his daughter comes up with the collar on.
Mhm.
I mean, he's looking out the window, seeing some folks standing out in the front yard. I mean, so he's seeing silhouettes. We don't know who that is. So, and he's just like, "What the frick is going on here?" Because he's reading this text message and he's looking out there and he's seeing these folks and they're shining the flashlight on the house and
Right.
being you know
Well, one of them strikes
creepy.
me as being that witchy neighbor,
Right? Yeah, it's probably her. But and the
and
larger guy is probably the guy who showed up at the end of the first issue.
right, is that like wasn't that like her son or one of her
Yeah, I
son or something
forget.
like
Yeah,
that? Yeah, so yeah,
but
maybe we have seen him, but we don't know yet, not until the next issue, by the way this one ends.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the yeah, I am kind of when I get to a third or fourth issue, depending on how long the miniseries is, when I get that penultimate issue, I then kind of take into account how many, the questions that I have, like, okay, for this to sort of satisfy me as a reader, I got, X, Y, and Z that I at least want to come close to having answered.
Right, right,
So there's not too many questions. Yeah, I do want to know what happened to Casey, what has happened to this little girl, how did it happen, those kind of things. And are there consequences to what's coming? So we'll see. That's the only thing we can do is sit here and wait. But
Yeah,
I mean,
wait and see.
overall, I've liked the miniseries. It's not that
Mhm.
I've read it and just got appalled, but I like the miniseries. I think I feel like I just I don't know. There's little bits of it that I'm like, "Ah, I wish I had a little bit more here and here to kind of flesh it out a little more. But that's it. That's really it. The art in it is very reminiscent of like early Something Is Killing,
Mhm.
where there's stuff. So I dig that. I when I read the first issue, I was kind of like, oh no, is he doing both books? Like, is this why we're getting the break? And I was like, oh no, it's a completely different artist,
Right, yeah.
but it definitely has that feel to it. So I enjoyed, so I enjoyed that. So it's a well put together book. It's just like I said, it's just those little sort of in between pieces, and I'm like, if it was just fleshed out just a little more for me. But again, just me. So all right. Let's move on to Harrower.
Harrower
Harrower number 4.
number 4, the final issue, the ultimate issue. Well, no,
Yes.
no, it's yeah. Which is funny to me because, of course, e everybody now knows that the one before is always called the penultimate,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, but you can't it nobody would really call the final issue the ultimate
The
issue because
ultimate
that
issue.
means it's the best. It's
Yeah.
like, well, but, yeah,
It's
so
like,
that
is
makes me
it?
question, well, why is it penultimate if the final
Right.
issue is seldom referred to as the ultimate issue? That's yeah, so, anyways, this comes to us from Justin Jordan and Brom Revel, creators, because Justin Jordan is the writer and Brom Revel is the illustrator. If I miss these names, I apologize. Someone out there more in the know than I, correct me, and I'll do my best to incorporate those corrections. Lettered by Pat Brousseau, designed by Madison Goyette, with maybe just a couple covers, maybe
Yeah, I only
three
think
total.
I think it's 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, either an A and a B, or perhaps a C. And so, um, now this one is really tough to talk about without
Oh, for sure.
giving the story away, because I mean they really conclude the
Oh,
story
yeah.
in this issue. I mean, so it's but now, first of all, let me get this off my chest and move on. It's been hinted at, but it was revealed in this issue that the cause of the shenanigans in this story, and I'm not using shenanigans in the light and fluffy kind of way, but just
Mhm. No.
shenanigans is all the stuff that goes on, is due to the town's adherence to strict Christian philosophies that was incorporated into the town at its founding and has been passed down from elders to elders to elders. So once again, I ask, really, dog, is it necessary to to poo on a third of the world's population in order to write your story? You know, if you want to choose someone to whatever you're doing, to ridicule, to whatever the root issue is that the message that we're supposed to get from this. Come on, folks, use another religion. There's only a million, you know. Use druids, paint them in a bad light. Use people who believe in, um, you know, worship animal spirits and animalist, whatever the word for that. You know, ridicule them, make fun of them, show that
Mhm.
they have people who follow those philosophies, but perhaps aren't the best people in the world.
Mhm.
Quit using Christians and Christianity continually as the butt of your joke. It's getting old. It
So
really is.
so for this particular series, though, could this story be told using a different location in the world and a different religion?
The location wouldn't have been necessary, but why could you not have used, say, Native American and some of the Native American uh, animalist
Yeah,
beliefs, animalist philosophies?
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
Because this turned out to be real animalistic going ons
Hmm.
in one way,
Yeah.
from one point of view. It could be described as being very animalistic. So why not? Or it could be, let's say, one of the religions that people don't know a whole lot about here in the US. Um, what is it from the Caribbean? Is it Santeria?
That sounds familiar.
And then either it's Santeria or a corresponding religion that was brought over from Africa
Hmm.
that is originally started over there. That would give you the ability to do some of these potentially darker things because people don't understand what's going on, and you could write it into a horror light,
Right.
I would
Yeah.
think, and so it's just, yeah. So, anyways, but that's what it comes down to. The
Hmm.
folks in this town are descended from the puritanical Calvinist,
Hmm.
uh, well, more than that, but those
Well, yeah.
philosophies were
Yeah.
used as the driving force for a set of behaviors that were passed on generation to generation, to where now we are seeing this belief system that has been swerved to its ultimate extent,
Hmm.
and is used to violently keep a people in line with that philosophy, that
Yeah.
belief system. And that, if you don't adhere, the boogeyman is going to get you.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what the harrower turns out to be. Now, the twist is how involved the adults are in the boogeyman,
Yeah.
and uh, how, which is kind of giving things away a little bit, how the boogeyman is chosen, because the boogeyman is a tactile, physical being. It's not a concept, and it's not some
He's
psychic
he's
energy
not
that makes you
JC.
trip
He's
out.
not Jason Voorhees.
It's a and
Yeah.
so and that's what happens in this issue. We see uh, the culmination both in the harrower doing what it's supposed to do, but also the the harrower as a concept being passed on,
Yeah.
and to whom it is passed on to. Um, we don't. Well, I guess it's kind of explained why it's passed on in the way it is, but also the harrower and who it's passed on to is pretty uh, effed up.
Oh,
Just
for
just
sure.
to be blunt
Yeah.
about it. That's and then like I said, the people that are involved in the maintaining of the
That was a
harrower is
little twisted as well.
yeah, just you know what's been going on is bad enough. It's very much like a through the series. Really had an 80s slasher feel
Oh
to
yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that was bad enough. But then when you get to the origin slash
Hmm.
creation slash passing on of the torch, although it's not
Right.
a torch, it's sharp
Well, yeah.
instruments,
For sure.
et cetera, et cetera. That's what just in this final issue just makes you kind of cringe, and it's like, oh wow, that's
Right, yeah, because I'm definitely building up to this. Like we know we know because of the cop that
right,
there's something like the last issue sort of left us wide open to um, what the townspeople were involved in some regard.
right,
Now, it's not until this issue, yeah, that we find out the full story and everything like that. But yeah, it is very 80s slasher flick. And I was, and it fed into those tropes and all, and I had a good time with it. And then we get to this issue and it sort of turns the whole thing on its head and sort of gives you the science behind it, quote unquote, the science behind it. And I was just like, what? And so it makes me like I'm fascinated with the I don't know the right term for it. I'm fascinated with what makes people think like those kind of like traditions passed on because it is a very in you and my viewpoint, we'll just say mine. I don't know about your viewpoint. I'm sure it's the same, but it's a very twisted viewpoint that becomes this hyper violent way of life that all of these people are just like, I'm okay with it because it sort of keeps the peace, keeps the purity,
Status quo
the
is, I mean,
status. Yeah. And so it's like, it is seriously it sure the origins of it is very religious, but I think it sort of transcended even that
oh
at
yeah,
some point to becoming its own religion.
right, right.
And
They
so
do it for the sake of doing it
right.
rather than it seems that, yeah, there is an end result. There is a reason,
Mhm.
but the reason somewhere along the way was no longer the reason.
Right.
The doing seemed to become the
Yes.
reason.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah,
And I like that as a storytelling mechanic, that it's sort of especially having condensed all of the answers into this one issue, is that you see it as the origins are being told. It's sort of this twisting of the vines and everything until you don't even know what it is anymore. As a reader, you're just like, how did it go from
right.
this
How did
to
you take it that
this?
far?
Right. At
Yeah,
some point, someone like the cop had to go, this is insane. Unless over the years, and it seems like this is the case, that over the years, the people who went, this is crazy, get killed because they're
well,
sinning against the town.
okay, here's something to keep in mind, and, um, you you may have run into this, but I know for certain your brother has.
Mm,
In the sports world, there is that concept that the older do it to the younger because the older had to go through that as well.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the younger must go through that is the
You gotta
reason.
earn your stripes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has nothing more to do than it was done unto me, so you
Mhm.
have to suffer that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, way, way back when it first started, that was not at all the point.
Yeah.
That was nowhere near what people thought about that. But now, after season after generation
Mhm.
after it's merely, well, that's what I had to go through. So,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, no, that's not good enough anymore,
Yeah.
folks. And I can personally say this also because in college I pledged two fraternities,
Oh,
two. So one was a
good on
local,
you.
and then when I got near the end of my college career, I wanted to get a national on my
Mm,
resume, so I quit and pledged a national. And yeah, so I got to play those games twice, man.
that's fun.
So it's not getting old; it is
Oh,
old. Ridiculous how quick. Yeah, hyper. You're absolutely right. And I
mhm.
don't know. I just for years I've just held my tongue, but I think my belly is finally getting to be full, and it happens so frequently
Mhm.
that I read, I don't know, 30 or 40 different titles a month, let's say, and 8 or 10 of them use some aspect of that sad trope to further their story. So you see it all the time if you read enough books.
Mhm.
I'm just, yeah, I'm just tired of seeing it.
Yeah.
Make fun of somebody else. Um, like I said last week, there are groups of people that were they treated like this today, the bitching would be instant and incessant. It would keep
Mm.
going. But Christians aren't allowed really to say anything. We're I don't know. We're first of all, of course, we're the cause of everyone else's travails. Just like several years ago, being a white male, if you were a
Mhm.
white male, you were the cause of everyone's travails. Well, now it's not the white guys too much anymore. We're still the problem, but now it's Christians, and
Right.
and woe if you are a white male Christian, that is, yeah.
You were
So
j
uh, you're all of them, all tied in together, boy. That's just
Dang it.
yeah. And you vote. You're old enough to
Oh,
vote.
yes, I vote
Oh
too,
my.
yeah.
Oh
There
yeah.
you
That's
go.
yeah. So but yeah, Chris, back to my, so I think maybe that's a large part of what we're seeing here is these
Oh,
people,
yeah.
these uh, are also, let's keep in mind, the survivors,
Yes.
right? Because at some point, all of these elders were the youngins.
Yep.
And, so that I think that also would kind of um, continue that because it's all they know.
Mhm.
So they are going to perpetuate that as well now. And so everybody who is left in this audience has gone through these things that we've seen in this four
Yeah.
issues. So and we certainly are left to believe that it will continue.
Now, the thing that I and again, there is, like, and we've not spoiled, I don't think we've spoiled much of anything, but there is definitely there's a conclusion to the story as far as this series, and then there's sort of an epilogue. And it's the transition from the end of the story to
Well,
the epilogue that
there,
I'm like, did I miss something?
there was hope at the end of the story, or so I
Right.
thought.
I
But
did
then when you
too.
see that epilogue, you're like, yeah, no hope.
No,
Okay.
no. It's we're all back to the doing it the
Dash
same
that hope
way.
is what happened
Yeah.
there.
It's just like I th- yeah, yeah, it was definitely hope, or at least like like
A,
all
a
right, some
change.
sanity is coming involved,
Yeah,
is coming in
there's a
here.
changing of the guard. That's what this whole story has been about.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are going to change, and it's like, no,
No,
no, they don't.
not the case. And the really yeah, I don't want to go any further on that because it's definitely spoilerish. And I do think I do want people to read this without knowing everything about it, because I do think
Uh,
having gotten to this issue and
yeah, that's
seeing that explanation, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, and then you see again it sort of twists and turns and falls over itself and becomes this whole other thing. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I didn't know this stuff going into it, because no, I don't think it would have changed my perception of what was actually it would have, because I felt the first three issues were very, like we said, very 80s slasher flick kind of
mhm.
thing. And I enjoy those kind of movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this is sort of a romp. This is fun, and we're going to get to the end of this and it's going to be, cabin in the woods or something like that. There's going to be like people with cameras and, we had to sacrifice to the elder gods, or, something, whatever that, however, sorry, I spoiled a movie for everybody.
Oh,
But, um, but did expect that, did you? But yeah, the way this issue is kind of like, "Ugh, well, yep, that would have tainted how I viewed the first three issues." So definitely, definitely a good issue that I feel you should go in. It's not quite Fight Club, but it's sort of along those lines. You don't want to talk too
um,
much about it.
here's something to keep in mind also. Okay, uh, this dude, right?
Hmm.
Is Does this happen for the harrower reason, or does this
No,
happen for some amount of payback?
this is payback. That's how I
S-
read that. Like
Well,
100%.
but but it's the harrower that does the payback. So I mean,
Yes.
you can't really tell 100% which one it is.
Well, and keep in mind too that the the harrower that had been there the whole miniseries up until the end of the story,
Right.
or outside of the epilogue, everything prior to the epilogue, there was evidence, even stated in this issue, that there were some actions taken that the harrower was sort of doing it outside of his programming.
Yeah,
And so there was definitely independent thought and feeling there. So, but I get, yeah, the harrower was it's like the harrower is only supposed to come out during a certain time of year.
right,
So it's
right.
not a all the time kind of thing that the harrower would just show up on a Saturday and start killing the kids, at the lake house.
No, it's more ceremonial
Yeah.
than
And
than
so, and I forget, so the epilogue takes place in the
in
spring.
the spring. Okay,
So
yeah,
I don't, and I forget when it took place at the first issue, and I should have looked that up before now. So yeah, I'd have to go back and double check that, because yeah, it definitely feels personal, you
okay,
know. So
okay.
if not, it's sort of the actions of the harrower in the epilogue seem odd, because at no point in the previous harrower's run of this book did we ever see the harrower just sort of stand there, take the mask off, and like, sup, you know. That's kind of how I felt was happening. Is like, I want you to know who's doing this to you.
It also shows an amount of freedom, though, that previous harrowers haven't had.
Right. So
So,
did things change?
well, to some
Maybe.
extent, yes,
Yeah.
but,
So
so,
it's a weird change. So,
and Hyper, yes, your last comment,
oh
for
yeah.
those that are, inclined to believe that, those are certainly evidences of that coming to pass, yeah,
Mm,
which, again, for those that believe that particular line of thinking, um, we know that's the way things are gonna go, that's how things are gonna get anyway, so it's not, I don't know. I shouldn't be surprised. I guess it's okay that it bothers me because
yeah.
it's supposed to, but and I guess in a way I'm not surprised, because again, I am of the same, uh, belief chain. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that people believe, in Christianity. Some of them are pretty weird, I'll admit, but there's a lot that are very similar,
Mhm.
throughout um, their thought, their belief system, and yeah, for those of us that believe, as you stated there, it is very much insulting. Yeah, and to me, the most insulting thing is that other people complain, but I almost feel that we can't, because if you, I, I assume that if you are to complain, it will also be pointed out to you by people who are not Christian that all of the bad, wrong things that have been done in the name of Christianity. Now, you'll be told, of course, well, look at all these things Christians did. And personally, my thought is, well, some of those pretty much prove that those weren't Christians that did that. They did that in the name of
Mm,
Christianity.
yeah.
Of course, completely different things as any religion. All religions have zealots. Okay.
Oh, for
Christianity
sure.
is
Yeah.
not, we're not immune to that. And, I think that a lot of that zealotry is what will be pointed out as, well, Christians did this and Christians did that. And it's like, well, yes, in the name of Christianity, absolutely. It's well documented that they did. Allow me the opportunity to show you why, I don't believe that that is really, a Christian that is doing that
Mm,
based on these things. So, a whole nother, yeah. Um, so now the books that we didn't read this week were, Dune: House of Harkonnen 5
mhm.
and The Expanse Dragon Tooth 2.
Yeah.
So, um,
Now, I made a comment about the artwork in the House of Arconin that I
okay,
didn't feel like, and this is during the our first episode back, that I said that the artwork, um
took you out of it?
it took me out of it because it didn't feel right.
Okay.
Um I take that back, having read this particular issue.
Oh, okay.
Um it and I don't know why. but it was just when I actually was making a point to pay a lot of attention to the artwork, and it might I can't give you the reason why, and that's kind of one reason why I don't want to just talk about the book, but that there was something about I thoroughly enjoy the art. I think the art is really good in that series. The tone of the book seemed to not lend itself to that style. Um, Again, thinking of Dune, I think of a more, and I hate to use the term gritty, but more of a realistic sort of darker tones and stuff like that. And this is a very sort of bright and airy kind of book, but then there's there's some scenes in here that are pretty horrific type situations, and the artwork didn't seem, even in this issue, didn't seem appropriate for that scene, but the rest of the issue was fine. So I think what I was doing is I was reading the first four issues. I was sort of, because I've been reading the monthly, was sort of that picking, choosing of those scenes. I'm like, well, this doesn't make this artwork's not right for this scene, but it's okay for the rest of this. It's not right for this scene. And so it's those scenes that it wasn't, you know, like like in this particular issue, there's a scene where a woman she's not being raped in the panel, but there's large insinuation that that is what's going on prior to us getting, or that is getting ready to happen prior to us getting to that scene. And then we discover that she can't scream out because she's had her throat, her voice box taken out, and we're shown the scars, and and it's this sort of bright kind of anime-esque art style, and you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, I guess, like, it took me that takes me out of it. But then the rest of the book, it's just fine.
Well, and so I mean,
I don't know.
you,
It's a me thing, as I'm pretty sure what
well,
it is.
it's pretty hard to honestly expect someone to completely change their style
Oh yeah,
for 2 or 3 pages, but I mean,
right.
I certainly understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um, Also, as far, as what you were saying about how you, expected the art to come across, flipping through the book, it looks like a lot of this story does not occur on Arrakis, which means
right. It doesn't.
that
Yeah,
the expectation of the dirty, grimy perhaps is not fair because they're not on Arrakis. They're
true.
on
Yeah,
planets with ice. They're
they're
on
on
planets with
Caladon, and yeah,
oceans.
yeah.
They're on the Bene Gesserit scene.
Hmm.
So I mean, um, maybe you're adhering to that Dune.
I'm projecting onto it.
Well, it's Dune, so it all has to be like this,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's like, well, yeah, to a point, but this is Dune, House of Harkonnen, so it's telling
Well,
the
and
history of
it's
the
also
house.
having read some of those novels, not all of 'em. I've read two or three, I think.
Mhm.
So it's having read it, not having seen it, all these other worlds and stuff like that, and having seen the original movie. I've still not seen the new one
The new
yet.
one. Mhm.
I do plan on watching it, but it's that, I haven't visually put together what those other worlds are like in my mind,
Right,
and this whole universe of planets, that are in this, there's so many, and they're so different from one another.
right,
So yeah, you're right. It's probably me projecting, hey, this is sort of the limited sort of visual aspect that I know of these characters and of these stories,
right.
and yeah, sure, different worlds have different looks and all this other stuff, and so maybe that's okay. But like I said, this issue came, like, I don't know, it seemed better for me. I kind of got it, but then we got to that one scene, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
it is a bit, mm, cartoony to be used to relay those types of images.
Yeah,
But also perhaps maybe it is better that way because it is more cartoony and not more
sure. More
lifelike or
graphic.
more
Yeah.
visceral or more, so it's like, well,
Well, I
it
appreciated the restraint on the scene for
it
sure.
takes the edge off,
Yeah,
some perhaps. So
yeah. So I'm learning, folks. As much as I read comics and have for as many comics I've read, for as long as I've read, and the different art styles and different storytelling and all of that, um, I realize almost on a weekly basis that as a even though I doing podcasting and reviewing books over the years and stuff like that, and trying to look at things from a fan perspective and also trying to look at it from a critical perspective, I fail at that a lot because I still look at things very much from a fanboy mindset.
I like what I like.
Right.
Yeah,
And I appreciate the work, I appreciate the effort. Like, I know what goes into it. I know what a book looks like when you don't care when you're working on it. I've
yeah.
seen enough of those. And so even sort of struggling, like earlier with neighbors and stuff like that, like I see the craft. I know the work is being put in there. That's never in question. It is purely on me as a reader trying to balance that. I'm a fan of this. I like this writer. I like this artist from what they've done in the past, and trying to be critical on it as well. Is this How is this compared to other work that they've done, other work that I've seen them do in this series, those kind of things. And for me, I'm still learning that. And I've tried with this show, especially in Comic Addiction as well, we'll say specifically when Ed and I do shows together, is that I've tried to get better at that. And I feel like I do get better at that as we go. And then sometimes I kind of fall back a little bit, sort of back on my laurels a little bit. It's
Uh,
just the way it is.
Again, we like what we like, and
Yeah.
we're cruising along, and all of a sudden there's a book, and you're like, oh,
Wait a second.
this didn't hit for some,
Right, yeah.
the writing, the art,
Like
the
a
combination.
year ago, this would have hit just fine. Yeah, or whatever, yeah, but, like,
Right.
right
Yeah.
now where I'm at, not so much. So, yeah, but I still dig what we're reading. I've it's been a while since I've read a bad book, so not hoping that I do anytime soon. Like,
No.
I don't
Uh,
wanna remember what that's like.
there's plenty out there, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. My pull list is hiding from them, I think is what it is, so. Alright, so anything else we wanna talk about before we head out of here?
Um, Next week, probably, Boom Direct will drop. That is Boom's
Yes.
official show. That's what we were. Uh, I believe the person who told us believes will have. So I mean,
Right, yeah.
there's a, quite a bit of iffiness in there. But as far as we know, and as far as we've been told,
Yeah,
um, we do know that we were told the first Thursday of the month,
yeah,
and so that is actually June 1st.
yeah,
But it is kind of pushing it because it's the first day of the month too. So we had a question and we asked, and the response was, I believe that that is
yeah,
what is going to happen. So that's all we know. So that'll be next Thursday, which may, I don't know, to some extent affect us. Maybe not. We're kind of up in the air about that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, the original idea was that, first of all, if you're not listening to Boom Direct, I highly recommend it. They do the YouTube short show, which is an abbreviated, uh, when they've done interviews so far, and so it's an abbreviated version of that interview and edited down for like 20-25 minutes. Then if you go to wherever you listen to your podcasts, audio shows, then you'll get the full interview, and then you'll also get additional stuff.
Mm.
And so I enjoy the podcast, one, because it's longer, which is what I like, and you definitely get you definitely get bang for your buck. I really feel like it's a lot more enjoyable. I do like watching it, but I'll be honest, a lot of times when it drops, I'm doing stuff for work, and so I've got it playing in the background, and every once in a while I'll go and look if there's a lot of interaction. But usually it's floating heads on a screen, talking like we do,
Yeah.
and so listening to it's just as fine. But I do watch it first and then listen to the full show afterwards.
So far, they haven't really used the full abilities of being a video
Yeah,
show yet, and
yeah,
maybe they won't. I don't know, but yeah, so far. So the first couple episodes, by listening to it, I really don't think you've really missed anything by strictly listening to it.
yeah. And like I said, it's been good. I've really enjoyed what they're doing, what Anthony and Haley are doing. So good on them for bringing that show together and putting the work in for it. So
I like Anthony's black fingernail polish.
yes. Now, yeah, I was going to say
Did you see
something.
the recent unboxing video that he did?
I responded to that. I was like, dude, don't ever. You gave me a heart attack. And
He
then
was
also, I
he
need
was
both.
unkind to that package.
He just,
Absolutely unkind. I was like,
I
dude.
know the shop that does
Man.
the fulfillment stuff now, which I didn't know who it was prior to that. So when he said who it was, I was like, oh, that's who. Okay, cool. So yeah, but then he started throwing that book
Literally.
around. I was
Yeah,
like,
to prove a point. I'm like, "Okay, we get your point just from the words. You don't have
right, yeah, you don't have to
to."
physically chunk
Oh,
that
man.
thing around.
He was.
But I did respond to him through the Boom Addiction Twitter account. I told him, I said, first, don't ever do that again. And then I said, second off, Ed and I might need to know where you got that boom hat from. Yeah. So
Yes,
we can
yes.
get some.
I noticed the hat, yeah.
I was like, I need to get a hold of that. So
Yep.
because that's a thing. Eventually behind me we'll get more boom stuff. The desk will get rotated around and all, but I would like a hat or a t-shirt or something like that. I need to get out there and find something that's more boom related or at least comic related. I feel like I'm always a little too
Well,
dressed up,
on
with a
once
collar and
upon a
everything.
time, we even got, official, yearly schedule
Oh, dude, I still have it.
from
It's
them. Yeah, I ran across mine here a couple weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, whatever year that was, 2013, 2014, or whatever.
Yeah,
It was
13,
still
14, 15, around in there
yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
yep. It was cool stuff, man. We didn't yeah, but we're still on the Christmas list, I guess. We still get the Christmas cards, but I don't know if I've actually no, they started emailing those.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
say I
that's
haven't
right.
gotten a card
Yeah,
for a couple
yeah,
years.
I take that back. We've been getting emails. Oh, too bad.
Yeah, yeah,
It's so much money to ship cards out to everybody.
we're on that list.
Yeah, we're on that list. But anyway, but yeah, give Boom Direct a listen or a watch if you haven't already. Just go to Boom Studios' YouTube channel, and you can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and look that up, and it'll show up there. So, but yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's the show, folks. A little short one for you, not too long. You can come by the website, boomaddiction.com. You can email us at boomaddiction@gmail.com. You can come by our Facebook group, which is Fans of Boom Studios. Come by our Twitter handle, and all that stuff is at twitter.com/boomaddiction. Come by the forums while they're still around at justanotherfanboy.freeforums.net. You can follow Ed at Twitter at Teal Productions. You can follow me at Chris Parton. All that is in the show notes. We would like to respond to emails and comments or mainly questions and stuff like that. So if there's like an older related boom book or something like that that you guys would like us to talk about, we last season we did, book of the month kind of things, looking back at some older stuff from Boom. Give us some suggestions and stuff like that, because I'm sure Ed and I would like to, spend some time with some older stuff, because we've read a lot of it. So, and we really feel like there's a lot of folks that oh no, talk about the rents.
The rents.
Oh. I'll have to remind myself what the rents is. I always want to go back and talk about the curse. Like every time I think about an old book, I'm like, we need to do the curse, because that was such a good book. But yeah, send us messages, DMs, and stuff like that about some books. We'll put them all in a hat, and we'll pick one and we'll talk about it. So,
High finance and low-down greed rear their ugly heads as Jeff Sinclair, the premier laundryman in San Francisco, we're not talking about wrinkled jeans and dirty gym socks, is unwillingly pulled into a dangerous gig laundering $25 million in stolen casino skim money. Forced to truly consider his line of work and the evil that he facilitates, Jeff must find a way to clean the cash and wash away his own sins. A grounded, gritty look at the world of money laundering in the vein of Elmore Leonard.
oh
The
wow,
Rinse. The Rinse is a modern crime classic in the making, and it's
2011.
Gary Phillips and Mark Lamming.
Yeah. Oh, Mark Lamming, sweet.
That's early.
2011. Yeah, that's a
2011.
really early book.
That's early.
Good. Yeah, I appreciate you, Hyper Potato, coming at us with some
pre-boom addiction
old-
there, boy.
Yes, some old stuff. So, well, I may have to. I'm definitely gonna have to. If we're gonna talk about that, I'm gonna have to go find it. So, Lamming is a favorite. Oh, for sure, he is awesome. So,
We need to talk about Pottersfield too.
Pottersfield. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I highly. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what everybody else wants to do too. But yeah, Pottersfield's definitely got me on the list.
But Butterfly's on the list too.
Butterfly's on the list too. We got a little bit of time with that. It could be next year. But yeah, we are also, and we'll probably tell you a little more about this next episode, but we are getting, we're getting close to the countdown to episode 100. Finally, we're finally going to get around to that. So that's always a good thing. We've been doing the show for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Still haven't done it.
We're getting closer.
Oh, geez. So, anyway.
Closer.
All right. Well, everybody, thank y'all for listening to this episode. Thank all of you who hung out with us in the chat. Hope all of y'all had a good time. But we always appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Thursday night. Ed, as always, thank you, sir, for joining me.
Yes, sir.
And we will see all of you next week.
Ciao,
Goodbye.
folks.
There's the ciao. Hadn't said it the last 2 episodes. I didn't know where it was.
Sorry, man.
I'm editing the show and I'm like, wait a second. He was supposed to say, oh, he hasn't said it. Oh my God.
Well, they took it with that new Food Network show called Chow House, CIAO House.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, well, okay.
You need another thing.
Yeah. Good.
All righty. Well, I hope everything is going well on all the other live feeds that we have going on there. So if you were watching us in the Facebook group or watching us on YouTube, obviously, which is where we normally stream, or on Twitter, thank y'all for hanging out with us. And we are going to shut it down, or at least shut the stream down. And we will catch all of y'all next week. Goodbye.
Bye.